sometimes you go into those mental states where you're meditating or even praying and you're visiting the darkness. People think that it's supposed to be like this very enlightening, blissful experience, but it's not always easy being with your thoughts. It's not always easy blocking out the distractions that are all around, because he could really just not take that moment and be absorbed in the moment in his environment, right? But he took the time out to be with himself and really think about what he was there to do and accomplish, and he manifested his success basically. But I've met many people that actually state that they don't like thinking about their thoughts, which now I understand, because that is a higher level of thinking. R&B Podcast with Russ and Blake, yeah. R&B Podcast with Russ and Blake, yeah. R&B Podcast with Russ and Blake. All right, y'all. Ooh, episode 50?
Man, episode 50.
Hey. All right.
Man, we made it here half a century.
I got to perk up a little bit.
Man.
We halfway to it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. R&B Podcast with Russ and Blake. Welcome. How y'all doing? We had a little failed attempt.
We've been talking for about 2 hours.
I wasn't going to mention it, but I got to be real with y'all. We had like a fire conversation, but luckily it wasn't planned.
But that's honestly like the beauty of all this is just what we do. You know what I mean? Like we'll just get together and talk about anything, covering things from stem cells to mortality to the philosophy of mortality to the...
That was a very scientific conversation that unfortunately nobody's ever going to hear because we didn't actually record it. We thought we were, but...
We are tuned. So with that being said, we didn't even get to our actual topic as we were having just our like off the cuff conversation with each other. So what is it that we're going to dive into today?
Awareness. So we are aware that this is being recorded. A little joke. Awareness is so closely related to intelligence, and we've had a pod where we talked about intelligence, so you guys might see those correlations once we get into it. But there's so many different types of awareness, and it's going to play a role into all of your interactions, all of your endeavors, whether it's just regular relationships, whether it's you trying to work on yourself or move up in the corporate world, whatever it may be. Your sense of awareness, umbrella term, is going to make or break your performance. So let's dive into that. When you hear the word awareness, what do you think of?
Man, when I hear the word awareness, I think of Tom Brady in the pocket. I'm not even going to lie. Like that's the first example that comes to mind, is that super high IQ quarterback who is able to sense the pocket collapsing, and they know to like get the ball out of their hands before they get destroyed by a defensive lineman.
That's a good explanation.
Right. So that's a little imagery for kind of how I feel our awareness is in life, is that we can sense the things around us and we get a heightened sense as we master it more and more.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And I think self-awareness is the foundation of all these other branches of awareness, right? That's kind of like self-awareness in a sense, and having that more spatial awareness, what's going on around you. And also the awareness of what other people are going to be doing. So more of anticipation, right? So I guess that kind of plays into spatial awareness as well, but that kind of athletic prowess, I would say, is going to directly translate into, fight or flight situations as well. If somebody's trying to fight you, you're probably going to be more aware of them approaching you or aware of their aggression.
Yeah, because you're receiving help from your body to heighten that awareness.
And
right?
you're used to the response, right? And that's why, fitness is so important to me, because it can just, the fact that you are using your body regularly heighten your awareness of how you function. And then also, you're going to have a chemical response in your mind that increases your awareness when you're used to exercise and used to having adrenaline flowing through your body and a higher stress level and things of that nature. So
yeah, and honestly, I think that that's like next level sports psychology, because I think if you compete at the highest level for so long that you're going to start to look for any edge over your competition. And that could be something like you arousing yourself emotionally in the moment just to gain more awareness. So that could come with like trash talking or having some type of little conflict that isn't really part of the game, but you're using it to fuel yourself to a higher emotional state and use that cortisol as some like awareness.
yeah, I haven't thought
moment.
about that before.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense because I used to kind of try to figure out why trash talk has such a role in sports, but it does increase the intensity a bit.
Oh,
right?
for sure. You see those videos of, you know, Michael Jordan on the free throw line, he looks over, bet 5,000 I don't make this. Like, you know what I mean? That's a whole new free throw.
Right,
like, that's
right.
a whole new free throw. And if you love competition, like, you might get to the point where that's the type of intensity you want in your free throw. You know what I'm saying?
You always take it to another level, right? And that's what's cool about personal development and, you know, specifically awareness, that there's no ceiling to it. It's something you can always build upon. And we were off camera talking about this exponential growth mindset. And so in realms such as these, when you really just focus on the fact that you can continue to get better, you don't worry about the rate of the growth or where that, you know, self-established ceiling may be. That's when you really give yourself the opportunity to excel past what you previously expected to be able to do. And just a more concrete definition of awareness is referring to the ability to be conscious of, feel, or perceive various aspects of internal and external environments. So the first one mentioned is internal. So that's that self-awareness we talk about. And then that spatial awareness is that external, right? But then even on top of that, you have social awareness. So that's more so your interactions with people. And we've talked about social intelligence. So those have a direct interplay there. And when you increase your awareness, you're also increasing your intelligence, right?
Yeah, those would be things like being able to read nonverbal cues such as body language, facial expressions, tone of voice.
Not only being able to read them, but being self-aware to actually project the proper verbal and nonverbal cues as well when you're trying to communicate with someone, right?
Yeah.
And some people have one side of the equation and not the other. Some people don't have either. Some people are great at both. And that's what makes us all beautiful, special beings, because I know a lot of people that don't have the best social awareness that are really good at a lot of other things, right? And a lot of us have our niche when it comes to intelligence. And I think in recognizing that, that's pushed me towards wanting to be more intelligent in as many realms as I can be. You know, I'm interested in health and science and spirituality and finance and infrastructure. All these things are like, they truly pique my interest. So I try to increase my awareness of all these things because they do clearly have interplay. We all have financial obligations, but some of us don't have financial literacy like we talked about, which I would call financial awareness. We're not aware of the tax laws. We're not aware of certain investment opportunities, right? So once you bring these things into your awareness and increase your intelligence, so you can apply them, take advantage, and all of a sudden you're more educated in that realm. So I want people to understand that sometimes being aware is your first step to being educated. So you talk about like breast cancer awareness. Some folks don't understand the importance of raising awareness for diseases. I've heard people say, oh, we all know about breast cancer. What's awareness doing? But people are more inclined to donate funds for the research if they're aware that there's so many people going through this. A lot of us have this egocentric, you know, existence, and we need someone else to bring that awareness into our consciousness before we can truly start to care and make moves towards making things better for someone else.
Sure. And do you think that for the most part, whenever somebody is introduced with a new bit of information, that it makes them uncomfortable or makes them put up their guard at first, just because it is something that is combating their current level of knowledge.
Yeah, definitely. Was it you that asked? No, it wasn't you. It was Brandon that we had on here. He asked me what it would take to convince me that everything I know about oxygen was false. And I was like, oh, it would take a whole lot. I mean, there's too many, interrelated facts and understandings that I think I know.
Yeah. I don't know. It's like, how hard was it? How hard was it to teach me everything that I know about oxygen? Like, it was not too difficult.
Well, that's an interesting statement because as far as my understanding of oxygen, it goes very deep. We breathe it in, and it's a portion of the air we breathe in, but it's arguably the most important portion, even though it's not the most abundant portion. And then our body uses it in almost all of its processes, because when your body's not able to transport or use oxygen, that's when death happens, whether it's because of it's circulatory reasons, right? Even if you have a heart attack that you die from, it's because your heart can't get oxygen. And if you can't breathe, you're going to suffocate. So oxygen is what fuels our body. It fuels the energy mechanisms, and our cells rely on oxygen. So I don't think a lot of people know the cellular role of oxygen, right?
Yeah.
So depending on your awareness and your understanding, it might be something small, surface level, but if someone does have a more in-depth understanding of like the molecular structures and things of that nature, that takes a lot of time to really have a full grasp of.
Dude, then that's a really good question. And so what would it take for you to feel like you completely don't understand what you currently do about oxygen?
I would basically have to go through a whole college education worth of changing my mind at that point.
So is it why does it need to be like a college education? Are you saying because it needs to be like
college education that gave me the thorough understanding that I currently have?
That's very interesting.
So I would say like the same caliber of indoctrination would be necessary.
And do you think it's because they have like the campus and they have like the professors and the professional look and all that type of stuff? Is that kind of what gives it more credibility to be like the right place to learn the information?
I won't say that it's necessarily the right place to learn it, but in comparison, it should be a trusted place. It is a trusted place in the university setting, in my opinion. But I also believe that, we're all human and we only know what we know and we don't know what we don't know. So I've learned things about certain topics in the past that later on, after doing my own research, there was a disagreement that I came to, right, in relation to what I was taught or told.
Oh, yeah.
And that's
so many of our disagreements is like you brought something that doesn't align with what I currently believe, and I'm going to try to say that what I think is what's real, and now we have a disagreement, and hopefully we come to some type of civil agreement about what we can both agree on is reality.
Or not.
Well, that's like a good debate, though.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you don't want to come to an agreement, whatever, like, peace.
That's my thing, though. Some people, sometimes we can just stop. I'm like, okay. They think there needs to be finality. Like, we're either going to agree that we're done with this conversation or I'm going to win it.
Yeah.
Right?
I think as I get older, I use the phrase, I hear you more and more, because I'll just be like, oh, I hear you. Like, let's move on. Like, I don't even.
And that's a good way to put it.
I hear you.
Because I tell people I understand, and sometimes I get the response, no, you don't.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh,
I know.
That was me trying to end this conversation.
Right. So I don't even want to say I understand you. It's like, hey, I can hear your words right now.
That's sound advice. I'm going to have to start doing that. But, back to the awareness, again, that's social awareness and having a verbal awareness, verbal intelligence even. And I have realized that you can't really accidentally increase your awareness. Somebody can bring it to your attention, but it's kind of a purposeful effort. You agree?
I do agree, especially because you brought up, when I was talking about our nonverbal cues and how we present our communication, you said that you want to present, intentionally what you want. And you have to be intentional with it. I don't think there's an unintentional way to aim at what you want to do. You know what I'm saying? So it's like you do have to
right.
be intentional for you to be able to gain your awareness, you know, in pretty much any field I could think of.
Yeah.
Unless you're just doing something that you just love to do. You know what I'm saying? Because I can think about when I was younger, I would love to play video games or love to play basketball. And then I gained a lot of awareness. And I wasn't being so intentional. I was just like doing what I wanted to do. You know what I'm saying? So there's that side of it where you can gain awareness just doing something that you're drawn to.
But when you became aware and intentional, that's when you accelerated your progress.
For sure.
It became a lot better.
Yeah, and then when you start to see the people that really do it, it's like they're just more and more intentional. You know, they are precisely aiming at one thing that they have defined.
And like you said, seeing someone else do it, that's something that's going to enhance your awareness also. So I mentioned proximity earlier to you, right? So being around the people that are doing the things you want to do and essentially living the life that you think you might want to live, you don't know until you're exposed to it. And some people don't know the options that are out there because they lack the proximity and the opportunity. Right. And that's something that you also have to create sometimes.
So in what ways is awareness and just gathering information different?
I think that gathering information should increase your awareness as long as you're processing it and it's useful information to what it is you're trying to learn.
Sure. So gathering information is just one way that you can
it's like
gain
a step
awareness.
towards it, right?
Okay.
That's like part of that the discovery phase of where you're gonna find that increase. And awareness isn't really something that can be measured. It's pretty subjective as far as I know.
Just experienced.
Yeah.
You know, I'm thinking back because we both talked about how we watched the college football championship last night, Michigan versus Washington. And the huge story throughout the game is how the Michigan football quarterback sits and meditates for a pretty extended amount of time before the game. Yeah, and then he goes off, right? And he's locked in. He looks like he's in the moment, you know what I'm saying? And what he did before is he sat and he intentionally like attuned his awareness to that field and those sounds and the place around him, his environment.
How many people do you think disapproved of that? Thought it was corny or a waste of time or he's trying to show out?
You know, from my perspective, because I like to study sports psychology, I'm thinking everybody is happy about it, thinking, okay, yeah, we know that this meditative place puts his heart rate lower and it gets
he's
him
the only
more
one doing
ready.
it.
Correct. So that's why I'm then going to say I could see how a group of people could be saying something like, oh, that's a secular way of getting prepared for a game. You know what I mean? Or he is, because some people play, oh, you need to pray before your game. Or there's other beliefs on how you get ready for like a battle, right? Sitting there and meditating and being attuned with your environment is kind of, I could see how some people might see it as being, oh, that's like Eastern religion, or that doesn't align with a worldview that we adopt. But I don't feel that way. And I feel like a lot of people in sports don't feel that way just because we see LeBron doing it. We've seen Kobe talk about meditation. We see Tom Brady. Like we see all the greats doing it. So to me, I feel like everyone would see that and be like, oh, well, that makes sense.
Yeah, Maddie was thrown off by it being in like a public chaotic setting. She's like, oh, how could he possibly be meditating right there? I was like, because that's his happy place.
For sure. I think the big difference is that he was like sitting with his back on the goalpost in the end zone.
Yeah, he's not in the middle of the field.
Right. LeBron has had many moments where they caught him on camera meditating, but he's usually like on the bench and he's where he would normally be, and then he's sitting there meditating.
Most quiet place that he could within his happy place, though.
Yeah.
And that's the thing too. People don't understand the love that a football player has for the game or a basketball player has for the game unless you've been in those shoes, right? And these athletes can perform at such a high level because they truly love what they're doing, like you said earlier, and it's not really something that they've had to put too much direct effort into, like just being aware of that situation up until a certain point. Once they want to take it to the next level and be a professional in that sense, you have to live and breathe it. And if you're living and breathing the sport, then it's only natural for you to find a way to control that breath and to be present in that action that you're doing every single day. Or else you can get lost in it. And then once it's gone, that's when you're really lost. because you didn't take the time to find yourself and be with yourself before those moments.
Yeah.
And so football is your life.
Right.
But I have a feeling that quarterback from Michigan understands himself very deeply. And that's why he's comfortable doing that in that setting in front of all those people.
You know, because we take different forms. You know, he sits in a meditative state that kind of represents nothing but potential energy, right? And then he gets up and he contorts himself into the form of being a quarterback. Mm-hmm. But then you return to potential. You return to your seat and you return to your breath, right? So you could think about it as, oh, I learned to meditate so I can be better at the sport. Or it's like I was meditating, I got up, played, and sat back down. You know what I mean? It's almost as if you disrupted your meditation just to play, rather than you meditated to perform better while you play.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
What do you see potential as?
To me, potential is energy. You know, when we're young, we learn about potential and kinetic energy. Mm-hmm. So in my mind, potential is like this origin place that energy exists before it takes form, right? And we have potential because we can use our energy. But when we're like resting, we're just potential. But when we get up and start moving and doing something, we're taking form. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying?
So do you think that everyone has an equal potential?
I do believe that everybody has an equal potential, but no, I don't actually. You know, as you asked me that and I said it, I don't think that everybody has an equal potential because not everybody has the same physical makeup, right? I mean,
you know, metacognitive.
Right. All these different things. So like, I think that we all have the same opportunity to turn our potential energy into kinetic energy. And that can be a fulfilling process to every single person that exists. I don't think that we're all destined to turn into the same form or have the ability to be the same form as someone else does. So that's where it gets to be weird.
Yeah. I asked you a trick question.
Yeah. But I'm glad you asked me that because I never really thought about that.
Yeah.
It's like, no, I don't think everybody's like able to get to the same level, but I think everybody's able to fulfill themselves with their quest for becoming more kinetic and something that resonates with their heart. I do believe that. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying?
Well, yeah, which can be very, very different from person to person.
And it should be.
Yeah,
it needs to be. You know,
that's
what
makes life amazing, man. I see some people and I'm like, how do you get into that? And you see like these halftime performances of somebody like doing handstands on a basketball or something. It's like, why did you ever try
or
that?
their dog is doing a handstand on a basketball. It's like, why did you?
What made you think of teaching the dog? You know, and it's like, I'm amazed, but it's so strange. I love origin stories. And, that's one thing, you know, I don't like hearing stories. Like when people just tell me a story of like their last week, I'm like, oh, I'm kind of disinterested. But when I can hear about someone's path to how they got to where they are in life, and why they care about the things they care about, I really, really appreciate those experiences. And
that's that Bane, you know, like I was born in the darkness. Like that's interesting, bro. I want to know about how you were born in the darkness.
And I mean, the thing is, we all came from the darkness, you know, and some of us just are so uncomfortable with revisiting that darkness. And then I think people like that quarterback from Michigan, sometimes you go into those mental states where you're meditating or even praying and you're visiting the darkness. People think that it's supposed to be like this very enlightening, blissful experience, but it's not always easy being with your thoughts. It's not always easy blocking out the distractions that are all around, because he could really just not take that moment and be absorbed in the moment in his environment, right? But he took the time out to be with himself and really think about what he was there to do and accomplish, and he manifested his success basically. But I've met many people that actually state that they don't like thinking about their thoughts, which now I understand, because that is a higher level of thinking. to think about your own thoughts.
Right. It kind of exposes a lot of...
Exposes everything.
It exposes everything.
All of the little secrets. We all got little dirty secrets that, you know, we don't want to really tell anybody. Like, ooh, sometimes I think this and I think it's kind of wrong or dirty. I don't want people to know that I think that, right?
Yeah.
And then we try to act like we have this pure mind and we've never had a bad thought and never thought about doing something bad. But the thinking about it is not the bad part. That's good. You should think about these things. You should also think about why you shouldn't actually do it.
Yeah, because you're making a choice.
That's where the bad part comes in, when you don't continue to think about what you're thinking about.
You know, and that's why I think a lot of people don't believe in free will, right? Because they don't understand that. It's like your stream of consciousness is not all light, bro. Like there's no way that everything you're thinking is always positive. You're probably thinking you could do some negative stuff too, and you're making choices all throughout the day on which one you're going to decide to do. So in my perspective, that's free will right there.
Yeah. And I mean, that's hard to admit, because even folks listening to us right now would be like, what? Russ and Blake think about doing bad things? I mean, every once in a while, somebody make me mad, right? But I wouldn't actually do it.
And especially because in my perspective, like the most I can humble myself, things get easier for me to understand.
Oh, yeah.
So if I sit here and think, like, oh, every thought generated in my mind is just positive and so great, no, because I know some thoughts that are generated are not fun to deal with. They're not fun for the emotional reaction that comes. Sometimes they bring an idea of things aren't going to be okay or how this is going to go wrong. And then I have like a visceral reaction to these things, but that's okay. And that's why I want to practice being with myself. So then I can define what's an illusion. Because if I have the thought and I let myself have an emotional reaction, then I just literally responded to something that's fake. Right? And you in the medical field, they suggest that people who are trying to heal stay out of stress. How am I going to insert stress into my own body because of an illusion, right? Lowering my chances of feeling healthy, being healthy, and having longevity. Like, so in my opinion, that's where that awareness of, is this thought even something that's real, or is it something that I'm just sitting here playing with in my mind and having a fun time basking in my pride about? You know what I'm saying? I think that's where the emotional awareness comes in.
So important.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've never even really conceptualized it in that way, but that right there is the reason that I don't have to dance around with negative thoughts very often, or, you know, toxic thoughts that might drive me to do something bad or be negative or look down on myself or something, right? Because I really do think that everything will be okay. I tell myself that all the time. Somebody's like, oh, how do you think that? I've definitely revealed on here that I think there's this balance of good and evil, but I do always think that good will prevail. And you might say, well, what about all these evil things? But when you think about the continuation of time and progress, that gets further and further in the past, right? And there's still all these good things in front of it. So it's just what you want to hold on to. And I hold on to the good and the positive as much as I can.
Yeah. And that's great. You know, that's great, because you're intentionally choosing to try to see things as being light.
Yeah. And that's why, you know, people say you got to choose to be happy. And that used to be something that made me mad, especially during the pandemic. Yeah. Because I mean, been in a deep, dark place twice in my life. The pandemic was one of them, certainly. And I'm thinking, like, how can I possibly go enjoy my life between these awful days in the hospital, right? And then now looking back, I'm like, man, I wasted so much time in between. I wasn't suffering. I was allowing myself to suffer, but I was viewing other people suffer and helping them navigate their situations and starting to take mine for granted. You know,
you feel like you were choosing to suffer?
I chose to suffer. I had resources I didn't take advantage of. I should have had therapy. You know, I was bitter when they presented the option to get therapy. I was like, oh, I should have had that, blah, blah, blah. Go, like, I figured it out on my own now, you know. And that's never, one, you should always be open to take help. Swallow your pride, take the help, get to where you need to be. Two, I was just coping poorly all around, right? I was, quote unquote, handling it on my own as a 22-year-old. How many 22-year-olds can handle those kind of situations on their own? I haven't met any, right? So maybe the situation would be different with my 27-year-old mind, but it was just a lot of immaturity at that time, and I was in a very mature circumstance, and now, after the fact, of course, I have this new awareness. I learned so much from my negative experience, though. And it's one of those things that I would never want to have happen again, but also I wouldn't be here being able to articulate myself the way that I can had I not been forced to kind of grow up quicker and deal with those things.
Yeah, and we all feel that way. And to try to make it into the conversation about awareness, it's like that's the awareness of what a obstacle is, right? I've been reading a lot about the archetypal symbols that the psychoanalytic field studied, like Carl Jung, right? And they talk about this hero journey.
Yeah.
And we've talked about this here before, but it's like the hero journey, you approach the obstacle, and the obstacle is just your gate into what your next phase is, right? And we all go through that, right? We're all in this like archetypal hero journey where certain things happen that blast our ego and pride out of the water because it's like, no way, that's me, these don't align. and you just dissolve that and then move into this
literally heard verbatim someone say that on TV yesterday. Like, this is not my story that I wrote. Like,
right, exactly.
But are some people living a villain story?
Is their life preparing them to do bad? No, I think that what you said, you put your pride to the side and you get help. You know what I mean? Because I think anytime you're motivated to hurt people, that's a maladaptive behavior.
Of course.
Right? So if you think that like these coincidences in your life have made it for you to be like the most vile villain of all time, that's not healthy, right? Like at all, right? And some people do feel that way. They're like, no, my cards are preparing me to be villainous. My cards are preparing me to go down in infamy,
right?
Because that's what I'm destined to do.
Thrive off of other people viewing them as the villain, right?
For sure. I've been watching Harry Potter this last couple of weeks, and Tom Riddle is that. Like,
there's a show called House of Villains that's all of like the most hated reality stars, right?
Right.
I mean, they take pride in that label,
for sure.
And I don't think they're necessarily going out and doing harmful things, but they've definitely done harmful things that they seem to be proud of.
And this is the thing. It's funny because you were talking about how, okay, not all your thoughts are positive. I think that, the archetype of the villain, the Voldemort and the Banes and all these people that are like the archetypal villain, they probably just had that stream of consciousness of like light and dark, and they chose dark so many times.
They saw it as more powerful.
They saw it as more powerful, and you can gain a following, right? Voldemort has the Death Eaters. Like, you can gain a following by looking like your power in the darkness can overcome the light, but it never truly works. And
yeah, I mean, the negativity and even the villain archetype is always viewed as strong.
Yeah.
In having this immense power. Can you think of like a weak villain?
No, there's
they're
no such
always
thing.
Strong. They never look like they're going to lose. That's how it's painted as, right?
For sure. And then the hero always has some type of like coincidence that occurs because they were walking the right way.
By faith.
By faith, exactly. And then so something, boom, pops out, out of nowhere that aids them in the conquering of the dark.
Yeah, but as soon as you stop and cower in fear, you get taken over, and, the hero doesn't win that way. Excuse you.
I'm going to probably just cut that out.
Lately, I've been walking pretty quickly upon this journey. And I told you I've really just fell back in love with education. I used to always say I love being educated, but I wasn't reading the way I want to. And there's so much knowledge within literature and books, seeing how other people think and portray ideas and thoughts, and also just the process of downloading that information by looking at it and reading the text. It's a different experience than even listening to an audiobook or watching a YouTube video, which I like to get information from those ways as well. I actually made it a promise to myself I'm going to alternate between textbook and audiobook this year, just to increase the amount that I'm able to actually absorb.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's quicker to listen to an audiobook than read a book, but I still, that practice of reading is so valuable. And I think that it's getting lost.
Mm-hmm.
The movie Fahrenheit 451 popped up the other day, and I was like, wow, I feel like we're moving towards a bookless society almost.
Yeah.
And people aren't going around physically burning them, but we have these libraries that I forget about the libraries down the street sometimes.
Yeah.
Because I can order books online, get delivered to me, or have these digital formats and all of those things. There's different options, but that
sure.
the effort that goes into making these publications, I think, gets overlooked a lot of times. And you can feel that effort within a good novel or even a good informational text, right?
Yeah. And sometimes, we talk about having to like dive into the darkness or into depression to come out with something valuable.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of these stories, nonfiction and fiction, were written by somebody who paid a high price to be able to say the words that they can say or write the words that they can write.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
to even be able to experience like their vibration, their energy through what they wanted to share with you in itself is like a thing that kind of broadens you.
Mm-hmm. And I just like hearing people articulate themselves. You
Yeah.
know? And I can hear the voice when I'm reading.
Yeah.
We were talking, what was the term you used about like hearing things that you see?
Oh, synesthesia.
Yeah, that's interesting. I wonder, is that different, you feel? Because when I read things, I feel like I can hear someone else reading them. I don't know if that's normal or not.
Oh, I think that's normal because you are seeing words and then your mind is used to processing words with sound.
And it's thinking of like a character that's speaking them or something, right? Yeah. But, all of our thoughts in our head, it's just our voice. We have our thoughts and our little voice. It's in our voice. It's not, okay. If you hear somebody else's voice, then you need to go see a doctor.
I don't know.
Unless it's God.
Yeah, and it matters what that voice is saying to you. It probably just...
Yeah, it matters what the voice is saying to you. I know I would be scared if I heard some other man's voice in my head.
I don't even know like what that means. You know what I mean? Because it's funny to think of
it's just an
unprompted...
interpretation of your consciousness.
Yeah, like if you had an unprompted, unfamiliar voice just enter your mind.
Which I've had people tell me that happened. Have you had people tell you about their experience of hearing, like they say it's God?
Oh yeah, for sure. I've heard people say that they got...
And I've heard stories where like, oh wow, like I believe that. And then I've heard stories where I'm like, oh, like you need help probably.
Yeah.
So I don't...
And that's another thing that's interesting because of the book I'm reading called Man and His Symbols by Carl Jung, or at least edited by Carl Jung. They talk about that. They say that, in biblical times and all the way up into like Greece, people would have those types of metaphysical experiences where they did hear some type of voice of that nature and they were taken more as like a divine communication, whereas now it's mental illness.
Yeah, that is interesting because, you look at really any religion, somebody had a experience of that nature, but like you're saying, that's not really something that we would allow to happen at this point in history.
Right. And that's what I think. It's all, what is that voice telling you?
Yeah.
Right? And that's where I think the discernment between what thoughts or ideas you want to hold on to and which ones you want to discard is very important, right? Because if a voice comes to you telling you, hey, bro, like, push that lady down.
Right.
You don't want to do that. But if a voice comes as, telling you something positive and you follow it and something great happens.
And I take back what I said, though, because
what do you mean?
There's plenty of pastors and religious leaders that, say that God told them that this is what they're supposed to be doing. And
yeah, my mom right now will tell you that God's told her to do plenty of things that she's doing, right? So I know.
Again, it's perception, because I feel that there are things that God has placed before me and led me to do. I guess I'm just waiting on that moment when I hear his voice. Because people, I used to try to think that was more of like a figurative statement, but it's clearly literal when people say that.
Yeah, and it's funny because we're talking about awareness, and I think in a lot of ways, God speaks through a feeling. We were talking about these coincidences, or also how when you start moving into something that's really made for you, how you feel this momentum drawing yourself towards it. And I think in a way that's kind of how God speaks, and you can become more aware of coincidences and I'm using the word coincidence just because that's what we know it as, but I believe that sometimes those are really communication to you, where you're like, man, I just saw that, and then I heard that, and then I saw this. Well, maybe you should tap into whatever that is.
Signs.
Yeah, like tap into that and see where that takes you.
And I've always believed in like signs from God or signs from the universe. It wasn't until recently that those happenings that a lot of people refer to as coincidences, I see them being more intentional.
Oh yeah, right. And that's why I brought it up as under the umbrella of awareness, because the more you're aware of that, the more you see. I know that that's a fact. Like, I know the more you're aware of it, the more you're like, oh my gosh, this is almost daily.
It's like the phenomena of when you buy a car, you start seeing more of that car, or you buy a clothing item and all of a sudden everybody's wearing that color or whatever. The same thing when you adopt a positive thought. A lot of the times the people around you are more positive. And when you do positive actions, the people around you are more motivated to do. It's leading by example, very simply put, but I think that it's beyond our perception of seeing someone do something good or say something good.
Yeah.
It's that the energy that is in their aura released into the air when those actions takes place.
You're describing the law of attraction.
The law of attraction.
Yeah.
Gives me goosebumps. The good ones too, just because I'm a big advocate and proponent of attracting positive thoughts and positivity and good vibes and all that into your life. And I never want to blame someone for their poor situation, but I've met plenty of people that have made it out of their poor situations, and it didn't happen from them being negative and dwelling on their situation. It happened from them being proactive and motivated and believing in themselves. And it's interesting that when you put those people on display and try to help someone else understand that they were where you are, or they're even deeper in the depths than you are right now. So what's stopping you from doing it? It's very...
The awareness level of your...
You can't give somebody else awareness.
No, you can't give anyone else awareness. And that has been the downfall for some people, when you want someone that you love or you care for to be at a certain level of awareness and they are not at that level yet. You know what I mean? And that's not your place to try to bring them up to a different level of awareness, right? So as we talk about it, we're trying to describe a phenomena, but we completely understand, if you believe in the law of attraction, which means that certain levels of information and energy attracts to itself, then there's no way that you can think that something that's not ready to be heightened can be heightened.
Yeah, definitely. I want to read this for our listeners, because this says the mutual enhancement. That's what we're talking about here, that correlation between awareness and intelligence. It says awareness and intelligence can mutually enhance each other. As one's intelligence increases, it can lead to a broader and deeper awareness of various aspects of life. Conversely, expanding one's awareness can lead to new insights and knowledge, thereby increasing intelligence. So seeking awareness, being curious, will directly correlate into how much intelligence, how many things you know. And again, Brandon, that's my dog. I keep having to mention him. Brandon brought up the phrase, curiosity killed the cat. We grow up hearing that and saying it, but why? I mean, that dampens our ability to ask questions and be curious and explore things and be comfortable.
Yeah. Right. I mean, why do you think? I feel like most people probably think the same thing. Like,
I don't want to say why.
But we could say this, because you did say that it's the onus of the educational institution to promote and strive for understanding and how to be more creative.
How to ask questions.
How to ask questions.
We even see with AI right now, some of the people that have the most capability to use these interfaces, they just know how to ask the right questions.
Yeah, and in a certain way, I'm all for paradigm shifts, right? I would love for somebody, I don't know if we talked about this while we were recording or not, but we talked about how Newton's laws of physics. If there was some student out there that learned them and then dedicated their whole life to trying to learn how to break one or develop a new law, that would be really cool, right? That would be kind of a paradigm shift. Now, I'm all for paradigm shifts, but I don't know how much our elementary education and into secondary school is teaching us to be so curious that we seek out a paradigm shift.
Yeah, I mean, it's not.
It's not.
That's not what it is built for.
Right. You know, so
I mean, there's a big conspiracy of like the Rockefellers and their investment into the education system and like what it was made for, to make workers of America, not thinkers, and things of that nature.
no, yeah, and there it is, and that's kind of what I figured you know what I mean, that we're gonna say. So we got around to it without being so just like blunt about it.
Yeah, and you know, that's why we're just kind of on this cusp of change with technology. I mean, more people are doing homeschooling. You know, you have these alternative methods of education, and you know, my daughter is so curious. I want to make sure she's in a safe place to ask the questions that she wants without someone telling her not to ask questions, or some other kid judging her or putting her at risk for thinking a certain way. And
dude, and she's all good, you know, because this technology that you're talking about, you know, like we're going to be able to educate ourselves to so many extremes, right? Because we still have the print literature. Now we have the audio literature, and we have the machine that breaks it all down into understandable bits and gives it right to us. We have no reason for it to be hard to be more curious and creative as we grow.
We have no reason for it to be hard to be creative and curious as we grow.
Facts.
Yeah. I had to reiterate that because we find reasons for a lot of things in life. And I'm not going to act like I'm perfect in my pursuit of purpose and, you know, this professional journey, but I love asking questions. I don't think I know a whole lot about anything, because I think everything has a lot more to know about it than we think. And I can sit here and have conversations about various topics, but I'm also understanding that there's not one topic that I know 50% of all there is to know.
True.
Which is exciting for me, because every day I get to be better. I get to learn. I can go search for answers. I can go search for opportunities. And I say search for opportunities because a lot of these things we're waiting for it to come to us. But so many of those same things you're waiting for are waiting for you to create it and make it happen, right? And that's where we talk about potential and being opportunistic. Is just a different type of person. And you mentioned that we can't share awareness. We can help someone become aware, but they have to be open to becoming more aware, because that is going to change something in their current perception or understanding, right?
Yeah. And you also can see this if you study different, like, Native American cultures, right? And different Native cultures across many continents, because they had rituals, right? They had maturation rituals. They had group ceremonies where
African cultures as well.
Exactly. A lot of these rituals and symbols were representative of growing awareness, literally, right? Understanding that you know more about why you're here, who you are, what brought you here, and what's going to keep you going.
One of my favorite aspects when it comes to these rituals that you speak of is the dance piece. And that's something you can see consistent across cultures involved with their rituals. And I'm one that I like to dance often. And I'll never forget, I had a client, what was it, like 2-3 years ago. She asked me, she's like, "Where'd you learn to dance?" And I was like, "Nobody taught me how to dance. This is literally in my DNA. I've seen my mom dance. She didn't teach me how to dance. Like the people 200, 400, 500 years before me taught me how to dance.
Rhythm.
And people don't understand the importance of your actions and your thoughts and your DNA and your offspring and how our kids turn into who they turn into. It's a culmination of all the people that came before them. So why it's important for you to treat your body right and utilize your mind and have these positive thoughts is because if you bring somebody else into this world, they're going to be left with what you gave them.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, kids can pick up the pieces and figure it out. Children are very resilient, but if you want their path to be seamless and give them the opportunity to truly reach their potential, then you have to set them up for success. And that's why it's not selfish at all to prioritize yourself. And it's difficult to juggle taking care of someone else and taking care of yourself and caring about someone else. I'm talking about a family dynamic, but it's up to you to figure out how you're going to make it happen.
Yeah. What do you mean, though, when you say seamless? You said that to help their childhood and upbringing seem seamless? Is that what you're saying?
So there's certain environments we can agree are more conducive to learning than others.
True.
That's part of it. Safety, being in a safe environment
Sure.
is part of it. Being in a supportive environment where someone's telling you that they're proud of your efforts, or someone's encouraging you to put forth more effort, or letting you know that the fact that you try hard is going to get you to where you want to be, and all of those concepts and things of that nature. I think that that's what we can do to make our children's journey seamless. I don't want it to be easy.
I get what you're saying.
I don't want it to be easy. If it's easy, then they're not going to learn.
Right. They'll have their own adversities.
Yeah, they'll have it, but it doesn't need to come from us.
For sure. And they can be more, at least, equipped to be able to conquer the adversity without, giving up.
And again, the tools that they have to work with are the ones that we've built and handed down.
Yeah.
They can acquire and build more tools, but you can fill up the tool shed so they can worry less about the tools and then worry more about the building.
Yeah.
Right?
Man. And, it's so interesting that we started as a conversation about awareness and we end it with the metaphor of a tool shed.
I just want to be aware of the structures I'm building around myself, and you're building whether you like it or not. Are you building a castle of destruction or a big fortress of positivity and light, right? You can draw all these images and metaphors for you, but a lot of this sparks from me reading Atomic Habits.
Okay.
You've read that, right? Yeah. Man, I've been sleeping on that book.
Yeah.
I can't believe it. Once I read it, I was like, wow. The reason I was so excited after reading it is because those are things that I'm already applying to my life.
Right.
And I see that a lot with literature. And that's, again, why it's so important to read, because sometimes you have these good ideas that you don't know how to articulate or share with someone else. You might be putting them into practice and know that it's important, but not really fully understand what it is you're doing. And then so in this situation with Atomic Habits, it made me think back to the question you asked me if I refer any books to my clients. I think that that's going to be the one.
Yeah.
Because everything he's saying, I'm like, I try to get people in that mindset week after week after week, right?
Yeah, that's real.
And whether or not they're going to sit there and actually read the book or listen to the audio book, I don't know, but that is definitely the book that is going to give someone the opportunity to be in the proper headspace to make the changes that I try to foster in people's lives.
Yeah.
Right.
That's awesome.
And I'm not even done with the book yet, but every piece of it, just from the habit stacking. The habit stacking was really big to me because I have introduced this idea to my clients about exercise snacks, right? So doing these small little bits of exercise throughout the day because you didn't have time to take out an hour, but you had time to go do 10 push-ups. You had time to jog to the mailbox instead of walk, little things like that, right? And so it's easy to look at these habit stacks in the sense of fitness and nutrition, obviously, but it comes in the form of your education and your social awareness and all of these other aspects as well. When you work on them just little bits at a time over time on a daily basis, and it compounds and it's becomes something fruitful and amazing. But when you neglect it and you don't have the curiosity and you're not exploring the opportunity of growth, then it's going to stay right where it is or even decay. So I'll let that be.
Yeah, well said.
A final thought here.
Yeah, there you go, man.
My little
and there it
box.
is. There you go, and there it is.
I don't know if I thank God. So I'm going to thank God. If I do it twice, that's okay. I thank God for this opportunity to have this conversation.
Yes, sir.
And
Yes, sir.
Increase my own awareness. I want to be more aware of looking at the camera when I speak. I'm
Yeah.
pretty bad at that because I like looking at the people I'm talking to.
It's natural.
And, you know, we've said it many times. This podcast is an opportunity for us to grow. But like I said, the growth that we do for ourselves is the growth that we want to see within the world. You have to be the change that you want to see. So I try to educate myself as much as I can, understand people as much as I can, because that's what I would like for everyone else to do. So on that note, please go read a book.
There it is.
And go talk to somebody. Talk about something good. If you need somebody to talk about something bad, do that too.
Yeah,
If you need a therapist, get a therapist.
Don't hit me up for that. Hit me up if you want to ponder upon the light and dark, but yeah, don't hit me up for that.
But
you can't. I'm not even.
As good as it is to be with your thoughts, you got to share those thoughts.
Yeah,
Don't
sure.
let them just build up in your mind.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Somebody's going to really appreciate what it is you're thinking about, and hopefully propel you to build upon those thoughts and make them even more great than you previously imagined.
For sure.
Shout out to Rhythm and Balance LLC for
creating this beautiful production today.
Yes. And the 49 before this.
And thank you, God, for empowering us to learn and then sit here and have a conversation.
Mm-hmm. And thank you, Elevate Personal Training LLC, for being a driving force in this community to help people live healthier, happy lives. That's my baby, Elevate Personal Training. And I also just want to make an acknowledgement that 2024 is brewing with potential and opportunity. And if you don't feel that, please adopt the mindset, be with your thoughts, do some soul searching, because things will be a lot different at the end of this year, one way or another. And you do have the opportunity to control what direction they're going to change in. And I can guarantee that if you continue on this journey with us, you will be able to notice a dramatic change. Some would say exponential.
Qualitative.
Right. So as you watch us, don't just be a bystander. Grow with us. Whether you want to just have a discussion, whether you want to feature on our show, email rnbpod@gmail.com. You can do all of this and then some. This that we're doing is just a drop in the bucket. You are hearing my voice because it's a calling. It's an opportunity. I want to see you do something great. And once you do that something great, I want you to share it with us. I don't need credit for the inspiration, but this is your inspiration.
Yeah. And then hit me up because that'll inspire me. And then we'll keep doing that and see how great we can be.
Over and over. All right, y'all. Like last week. We'll see you next week.
Peace.
Appreciate it.